People start a business because they want freedom, they want money, or they want to make an impact. And when you're stuck, shackled to your desk and you're not, if you like doing admin work, cool, that's on you. And if that's what's going to grow the business, fantastic.
There was stuff that my EA was doing that I couldn't even do. So even though that gap was there, I was like, I don't even know how they were doing this, right?
When people finally see it, it's like the light bulb goes off in their head.
I'm fully fired up. Let's make it happen.
Welcome back to the Fired Up podcast, where we help you get your together so you can make it happen. We're all about starting, growing, and scaling. Do yourself a favor. Follow our socials and subscribe to our channels so you don't miss an update. Let's get pumped up for this episode.
Today on the show, we have a good friend of mine, Chris Kille. He's an entrepreneur and investor based in Boston with a passion for building businesses and creating meaningful impact. He knows firsthand the struggle of managing business while feeling stuck in the weeds. His experience scaling companies taught him that success isn't about working harder. It's about building the right team and systems to operate at a higher level. Through EO staff that specialize in outsourced, dedicated remote assistance in the Philippines, they can really help entrepreneurs, business owners, people looking to grow and scale focus on the things that are important, which is what the things are that only they can do. You've got to get the support to help you grow so that you don't get overwhelmed, and EO staff knows exactly how to help you with that. So, Chris, I want to start off by asking you what led you to the point of actually making the decision to get an assistant and some support, because I know through our relationship and talking about your background that, something pretty scary happened at, the burnout phase, which ultimately ended up in you in hospital. Do you want to talk us through that story and kind of what led to the next decisions from there?
Yeah, I think that the main reason that I went to get an assistant initially was because I had to. I had to step away from my business for a few months because I was not dealing with stress the best, and I had let myself get into the business too far. And after a number of years, it just started really to weigh on me. And I actually they thought I had a stroke. I was in the hospital for a little bit, and it turns out it was something else that wasn't quite as major, but still scary enough that when I got back, I really decided that level of stress had to go away. Something needed to be done about it, or I was going to have to sell the business and walk away. And I really didn't want to do that. I had put about 15 years into it at that point. And so learning about virtual assistants was something that actually happened at a conference in Charleston, South Carolina. I went and I learned about it from a guy that was speaking. He's actually a mentor of mine. And that was how I found out about virtual assistants from the Philippines. And, at the time for me, budget was a constraint. And so locally, I just was not able to find the talent that I needed to operate at the level that I needed to for the price that I could afford to pay.
Right. So then talk through the next step. So you're like, cool, I need help. I've learned about it at the conference. How did you find this person? Like, what was the process? Who did you partner with, or did you go this alone in terms of sourcing that person?
Yeah, so I went with it alone. I probably shouldn't have, especially since it's the conversation I have now with my clients is the one that he had with me, and I chose to go by myself. I consider that a blessing though. But yeah, I went on to the onlinejobs.ph like everybody else does. And I put my resume up, or I put the job post up, and I went through the 400 or 500 applicants that I had, and, did my little interviewing skills that I really didn't. I ended up getting lucky. I went through 2 or 3 of them, until I found one that stuck for a couple of years. I got fortunate, but the process still took me, I want to say 6 or 7 months to get through it from start to finish.
Wow. So tell us, who did you end up with? Where are they from, and what are they doing for you that has completely evolved your life and business structure?
Yeah, well, without naming names, they've all been from the Philippines. I've had several. And right now, currently, my director of operations, as we started to scale the company, came to me and asked if she could be my assistant about 1.5 years ago. And I told her, no, we needed I needed her running the company. and and handling the operations side. And she asked me a couple more times, and finally it was actually my fiance girlfriend then, was like, hey, you should give her a chance. She really keeps asking, and I think she can do a better job than the person that you currently have right now. And it turns out that was true. So Faye, who is my current executive assistant, and I we have a great relationship. I don't see her going anywhere. But she started off as the operations director for the company.
And can I ask? I mean, I've got a long history with the Philippines, and I can talk about my story as it relates to assistance in a second as well. But what led you to the Philippines? Because there's lots of options out there. Was that based off the back of that conference that was the location they were directing to? Yeah. Okay.
It was, yeah. And,
Yeah.
just the more I learned about the culture and the people, and, what I found, and it's a lot more prevalent now, is that there's nothing wrong with people from the States and, and other countries. But what I found is you get a more, a less entitled employee over there for the positions that we hire them for. And, it's been my experience that the onboarding process is easier. The managing process is easier. Obviously the money, the savings is there. And, it's just been a smoother process with our Filipino employees versus employees from other countries.
Yeah. I mean, look, I was lucky enough in my previous role, company I was working with, maybe 2014, 2015, and we were growing so fast. And similar to your story, I was like, I need some help here. Like literally, I need to focus on the things that only I can do. And I'm going to need some support for everything else that actually could be done by an assistant. And went through the recruitment process, was spoilt with choice of really good talent. And I agree with your point there. It's hard to say, but it's true. Like the whole less entitlement and the pure appreciation for the opportunity, the work, the support, the benefits, and everything else is much different to onshore. So that's benefit number one. There's obviously a huge price comparison and savings. I think people think, well, that must mean less quality. It literally doesn't. It's just the kind of living costs and everything else in a different country. Your EA and my EAs along the way, for what they're getting paid is they're living a very nice, comfortable lifestyle in comparison. So what happened to me was I started with that EA. It takes a bit of time, to train and build the relationship and get into those working rhythms of how you operate so that they can support that. And then, fast forward probably 8-9 years, when I left the business, I no longer had my EA. And about 3 weeks later, I was in complete disarray with like, oh my God, like, where is this person that I used to have? So, look, I quickly went back to the Philippines. I spoke to my network and got another EA on board straight away because it was just such a big shift to have all of this help and support and direction and guidance and all these things. And I just really, there was stuff that my EA was doing that I couldn't even do. So even though that gap was there, I was like, I don't even know how they were doing this, right? So I guess my question is like, a lot of people who have some sort of support or assistance, once they've got it, they'll have it forever. But there's a lot of people who think, I don't know if I need this. So you kind of like don't know what you've got until you've lost it. Why do you think, and you're dealing with a lot of business owners, right? And you've got the solution for them with EO staff. Why do you think they're not jumping on this yesterday? Why are they dragging it around and being so delayed with the decision?
I was actually thinking about that in the car on the way to the gym today, because I'm always trying to find a way to talk to new people, to talk to clients, to talk to prospects, to talk to people who just don't know the industry. And I really do think that most people when they hear the word virtual assistant or remote office assistant, ROA as we call them, they think personal assistant like you would see in the movies, like, you know, the high powered fashion executive with the clumsy intern following them around, spilling shit, and you know, and it's really not like that at all. Most people, when they own a business, they know of the stuff that they have to do. Like you're just in the weeds, right? Like 90% of the time, especially as you grow. And being in that position sucks. I mean, and everybody knows it, but most times, I'll just give you an example. I was just texting with a jewelry guy that I've been working on a deal with. And, you know, he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't call you back. I've had 3 problems hit my desk. You know, the problems of being a business owner." And I was like, "I do, but I also know the solution to it." And we weren't even talking about me doing business or him doing business with me. I'm actually working on buying something from him. And you know, it really kind of highlighted the thought that I had this morning about people kind of wear that as a badge of honor, I believe, at times. And it's not, that couldn't be farther from the truth. Owning a business, you know, people start a business because they want freedom, they want money, or they want to make an impact. And, you know, at the end of the day, when you're stuck shackled to your desk and you're not, I mean, if you like doing admin work, cool, that's on you. And if that's what's going to grow the business, fantastic. That's a great way to spend your time. But most business owners are not, they don't like sitting at the desk. They want to be out and about, moving and shaking hands, making money, doing deals. And it's not a badge of honor to get stuck at a desk. And so when people realize that it goes far more beyond than just managing your email or, you know, making sure that people are whenever they're booking time on your calendar that you show up, it's far more than that. And when people finally see it, it's like the light bulb goes off in their head. You mean they can do that? I'm like, yes. Do you mean that I can have this done too? I don't have to do this anymore? Like, yes, absolutely. And we, you know, the principles that we teach and the onboardings, you know, it's, you know, we follow a pretty precise methodology here to onboard. And when done properly, I always say that, you know, if I was to lose everything tomorrow, I'd go into debt to keep my assistant. And that's the matter. Like, you know, you didn't have one for a couple of weeks, and the house probably felt like it was on fire. And so that's when you went and, you know, you got a new one, and that's what it took to get out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. I love it. I think, look, I agree. You know, I'm dealing with a lot of clients and people in our community who are either, you know, in the startup phase of their business, which this is also valuable for that, right? It's not, I don't think you need to wait for burnout. These people have the skills and ability to do a lot of the heavy lifting that you don't have the time to do. So if it's in startup phase, you know, we need to be doing market research. We need to be building brand packs. We need to be getting some social media out there. We need to be building prospect lists, all of that stuff. They are absolutely amazing in that space. For the other people who are, you know, in their business and it's been running for a fair bit of time, and now, you know, only if things are going well do you start to lead to burnout, right? Because if you're not busy, then things probably aren't going well. So being very aware of that situation and going, okay, cool. Now, and this is a process I've gone through with some of my clients, write down all of the repetitive tasks that you do and now mark off, could someone else do that? And now put how much time are you spending on each of those tasks per day, per week, per month, and you can add this all up so you can look at it at a year, and then put a dollar value on your time. Now, if you're, you know, you need to work out what that is, but once you go through that process, you can go, you know, holy shit, I'm spending 20 hours a week on repetitive tasks, sending invoice, sending the same email, doing the same call, working on the calendar, the presentation. You multiply that by the figure. This doesn't cost you money. This saves you money. And it enables you to get back your time so that you can focus on increasing more money or improving the business. So I think, you know, for people listening to this or watching this, think about those two aspects. It's not, I'll wait till my business gets big and I'm getting burnt out and then I'll look at it. It's something that you need to apply very early on in the process, whether you're in business at all, because the value that can be added here is absolutely extreme. And I think, the space, particularly in social media, it's noisy. There's so much going on there, that being able to just cut through that space with your messaging and your marketing and your branding, it has now become extremely complicated. So getting the support and direction and from an assistant there is super helpful. Can you talk us through like just a normal Chris day? Because I think it would be valuable for listeners to go, cool. So how is your assistant helping and supporting you? Like, what's the rhythm? Do you wake up and get an email full of all of the priorities? What's your meeting cycle like? What type of tasks are they doing for you? That type of thing. Can you run us through that?
So I start my day with a text message whenever I wake up. She usually sends it the night before, and it comes to my phone. It's got a screenshot of my calendar on it. So that way it's the first thing I see whenever I know, and I can kind of prep myself for the day. At least I see what calls are coming, where my dead spots are during the day, where my light spots are, when I can have lunch, things like that. And
Yep.
Then after I get settled, I will open up my laptop, and I have what's called our action items email inside. And that's going to break down. It's going to have our bank balances, that has status of projects that are going through, any sales pipeline, anything that has been escalated to me the day before or the during that week that is something only I can deal with. There's that. There is another breakdown of my calendar for the day, my schedule for the day, but it's going to be a lot more detailed at that point. And then pretty much any notes or anything that I needed to know during the day, anything that might be coming up, any bills that need to be paid, and anything like that she's going to take care of. But she keeps me in the loop on all of that. Sometimes we have a call. Usually once or twice a week, we'll do that call, and my inbox is also organized at that point. So I come in and I'm only seeing all the junk has been filtered. Anytime a message that comes to me that maybe should and can be handled by somebody else, that message has been delegated. And it just kind of sets me up for success that day. I get a snapshot of what's going on in the business without having to get down in, on into the dirt and really find out what's going on there. I also do, I know of any issues that could be arising, any potential problems. I see all the cash flow. It's a great snapshot, high level of what's going on in the business that day. It was kind of like your morning coffee, right? Sit down, people sit down and read the paper in the morning and have their coffee. And that's my version of that.
Yeah. Let's talk about kind of tasks just at a high level, because I think, again, some people have a perception around hesitation around giving people offshore access, or they're worried about trust and security. And like I said, once you've had this support, that all goes away very quickly, but there is a barrier to that sometimes in terms of entry. Let's talk about what they do and have access to. So is it billing and invoicing? So they're paying bills, they're sending invoices, they've got access to social media accounts. Is it all? Talk us through that. I want to just make sure that there's nothing that you're kind of protecting or removing access from a trust or concern point of view, and how you manage that.
Absolutely. And security is always a factor, no matter where your employees are. It's definitely something to be mindful of. For me, everything is based on trust. Faye didn't have access to everything when she first started. And even right now, she doesn't have access to move money. She can see everything. She has access to the credit cards. She can, she can see the bank balances. She can see what's coming in and out. She has access to QuickBooks. But, I've got, multi-factor authentication on the bank accounts. I would do that for anybody though. It's not, as being the solo business owner and not being, some multinational corporation, that's not something that, no matter who was, I don't think anybody else would have the ability to actually move money out of the account without approval. She is able to send money via payroll, but I still have to sign off on that.
there, as it relates to companies and providers offering EA services anywhere in the world, but particularly in the Philippines, there's a lot. There's a lot of companies and offerings and options out there. Can we just talk through like cost and pricing? Because I know that there are businesses out there that have a flat fee, and what's going on behind the scenes with their pricing model is, they've got to incorporate all their costs and the wages and everything into that. So in order for them to get margin, they're obviously trying to get the cheapest employee possible for what they're charging the customer. So you guys run a completely transparent pricing model. Like, talk us through that and why that's important.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. And there's a lot of different ways that you can skin a cat with pricing in this industry. And there's really two most common ways. One is just a flat rate, all-inclusive pricing. And from a transparency standpoint, it leaves a lot to be desired. So it's my opinion that when something isn't broken out completely and itemized for this type of service. Now, obviously, if you're a plumber or remodeler or something like that, sometimes that just doesn't make sense. But when we're dealing in human capital, essentially, it's really important to make sure that you know where your money's being spent, and what the person that you've hired is getting paid. And in some companies, and to be honest with you, we priced that way initially. Nothing nefarious, but we thought it was easier at the time, but we continued to get the question, well, what are they making? Well, what are they making? And when we told them, it made for a harder conversation. So we went to what we call a managed service fee, where at the end of the day, you're still getting an invoice that's roughly the same amount. However, at this point, for a fact that, that your person is being paid a fair wage, or in our case, usually above market wage. And exactly what the company's making, and exactly what you're getting for that. So sometimes, people say, well, what am I actually getting for my managed service fee? And, that's easy. I mean, we provide support, HR, payroll, taxes, we're offering benefits. There's a whole slew of things, as well as a guarantee. And, there's a slew of things that get included into that managed service fee. And on a flat rate pricing, you just don't know where your money's going. And I don't think there's really anything, wrong or right about either, but it's been my opinion and it's my buying preference that when I'm spending my own money, I want to know where it's going. And so what we found was when we switched to that, to the managed service model and actually broke things out. Sure, we did. Some people say, oh, well, we don't think that that's fair. And that's okay. Those aren't our people anyway. But most of the people said, hey, we really, really appreciate that this has been so transparent as opposed to some of the other quotes that we've gotten.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, 100%. And look, all things aren't equal when it comes to people and talent, right? Like, they've got different degrees and levels of experience and different degrees and levels of ability. So therefore, the wages are not going to be the same across every person. If you're looking for someone who's got, 10 plus years experience, they've been an assistant for a large corporation, they're social media, they're marketers, they're research analysts, that's going to cost you more than someone who's doing basic calendar entry and data management, right? So if you had a flat rate pricing, that real weapon of a person now depletes the margin to the company. So they're going to try and do two things. Well, they've only got kind of one option. Let's not give them that person, they cost too much. Or let's try and drive the wages down on that person, which both are unfair and unreasonable. So I really like the transparent pricing model. I think people need the ability to see what the wage is and see that wages do cost you more for higher skilled, more talented people. So tell us what you want. Tell us what you need, and we can present the best candidates for that. But yeah, better things cost more money. So it really comes down to what you want, and people need to be paid fairly as well. I think the other thing just to raise here as well, like in the Philippines, just like in the other countries, there's some government mandated benefits, right? So there's other government costs that need to be applied. in the HR world, and you guys manage all of that as well, right? Can you talk us through what those kind of things are and how they apply into the cost structure?
Yeah, so there are definitely some. 13th month is a big one over there, and what it is essentially is a government mandated bonus, right? At the end of the year, it's equivalent of a 1 month salary, and paid at the end of the year. It's something that is unique to the Philippines from what I have seen, and I think it's great personally. Sometimes it can be difficult explaining that to our to American clients, for instance, because it's just so foreign. Like most time that they don't quite understand it at times. But when think about it. It's really cool. It's an extra way to show appreciation. Granted, mandatory. There are a lot of companies out there that don't pay it though, especially companies that aren't registered in the Philippines, because if you're not, you technically don't have to pay it. If it's an independent contractor, there's really no law stating that an American would have to do that if it was in a contractor relationship. And that's something that unfortunately some people do. But a lot of times, most of the good companies over there will pay that. And it's great. I mean, I think it's great for the economy. I think it's great for the people. And, in terms of other types of benefits, right? You can do HMO, you can do health savings accounts. There's lots of different options. I know we just recently looked into that, and we went away from an HMO because of some of the people in the provinces. It wouldn't make sense for them to have that particular coverage. And so we went to a more broad, I believe it's a savings account option, to where, we're still able to provide, but it's just in a different manner.
But also, I was looking at that book in the background, Rise of the Virtual Assistants. Yeah. Tell us about that. Tell us when did you write that? When did that come out? And what's on the inside of it? Yeah,
so I a lot of words on the inside. I wrote it in 2023, and it's my story of it's how I fell into learning about virtual assistants, how I some of the issues that I went through in the beginning, some of the obstacles that I had, and how I overcame them, and additionally, how other people who may be learning about them, is some information in there, and how they can apply it into their, immediate life. It's actually one of three. I'm working on the second part of it this upcoming year. I should be hopefully have it out by the end of the year, and that's going to be more of a playbook. So this one is kind of a background on it and some theoretical. But the next one is going to be a more tactical approach to, okay, now we're going to get our hands dirty, and here's how we actually can apply and work with a virtual assistant in my own business.
Awesome. Thank you. If people listening, watching, I want to know more about EO staff. I want to understand the process and how to work with you guys. First of all, can you tell us, well, I can do it. It's eostaff.com, right? And that will give people a good understanding about what you do, how you do it. I think one thing that we should probably just talk about, though, again, and this is the difference between the options out there for people, is the recruitment process and the onboarding is critical to the success of this. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us about your recruitment process and your onboarding process? And you mentioned something earlier about a guarantee. So what does that mean?
Yeah, I think that the recruitment process is obviously important. And I don't like a one size fits all approach. I call it semi-custom. For instance, my company, we recruit to a pretty specific role, more of an admin, office assistant, hybrid with a, lead follow-up, lead generation, making sure that, when leads come in, people do reach out to them, making sure that they're being followed up with. We're able to provide a pretty strong and solid ROI immediately. That's a direct ROI with that role. And so the clients that we take on, they all have they're all, usually 1 to 5 million in revenue. solopreneur, or small team entrepreneur that's kind of stuck in the weeds all the time. But we can actually come in and take a lot of that administrative stuff off of their plate, making sure they stay organized, keeping the trains running on time, if you will. And then also bringing in that benefit of lead gen. And too often we see companies that they just recruit to a one size fits all. So a great example of that is there are companies out there that you can sign up with them, give them money today, and then tomorrow you can have 5 to 10 interviews scheduled. And, that's more of a one size fits all. And that may work for some people depending on the role, but it's our opinion that we look into communication styles, emotional intelligence, definitely experience, whether it be direct or indirect experience and what they're looking to do, critical thinking skills. And, although we do have, people built up or people that we can reach out to and kind of a talent pool, it's still a semi-custom, solution to where, it is going to take a week, maybe 2-3 weeks sometimes, to get somebody in that role and filled. And then from an onboarding standpoint, that's the most crucial part of the process. I always say, if you give somebody a toy without the instruction manual, it's difficult, right? They're never going to be able to utilize it in the most effective way. And so we actually train on, there's one of my mentors, his name is Dan Martell. And he wrote a book. It's, in my opinion, it's one of the best books ever written. It's called Buy Back Your Time. And the entire book is based on how to delegate effectively, how to work with somebody on your team or somebody in your personal life, and delegate and communicate effectively. And so we have a process where it's a 2-day deep dive immersion, essentially, in that book for new ROAs that come on board, as well as a 16-week mandatory 1 hour per week. It's an online training that we dive into one process or one principle of that book each week and really dive into it. And, it's just like dribbling a basketball. It's, you got to stay on top of the fundamentals. And we also offer that training, another version of that, to our clients as well, because it's happened many times. And this is a hard lesson that we've had to learn over the years, is that you can't just hire somebody, no matter what part of the world they're in, and stick them in a closet and expect them to come out as an A player. There's a lot of communication that needs to be there. There's a training process that has to be in onboarding. And in the events when we see this fail, it always comes down to onboarding. It's, expectations were out of alignment. Communication was not there. And because of that, it didn't work. And it could have worked, which is sad. It's sad for both people. Yeah, I'd say probably the best way right now to reach out is through direct message on Instagram. It's at I am Chris Kille, and ChrisKille. And I'm very active on Instagram. It's something that is a channel that we're looking to build out. I do believe that is the future of business communication, right? It's just, if you're not on social media, I think you definitely should be looking into that, because you're losing out, not only on an, opportunity to get more customers, but just to share with the world who you are and what you have to offer. So, Instagram, I am Chris Kille.
Thanks for listening to the episode. Please make sure that you like and share this content with people who need to hear it. Also, make sure that you are subscribed to the channels and following us on socials. Stay tuned for future updates where we bring on more guests and give you more insights so you can be fired up to go and make it happen.